Awesome, Cam. Well, yeah, we can segue into some of the news stories that we got here.
Yeah.
It was kind of a jam-packed week.
Yes.
So let's try and break it down here. We got the first one is a good news story. So this is Iron Man VR. It has a July date tied to it now. So it was kind of, it was in mystery when they announced it with Last of Us 2 was being pushed back, but now we have a date. So I pulled up the details from VG247. Sheriff Saeed, which is a dope name, has the details here. Iron Man VR finally has a release date again. You may recall that Iron Man VR was one of the 2 Sony-published games that got delayed indefinitely early this year following coronavirus concerns. It had The Last of Us Part 2 for company, of course. Though Sony eventually announced a June release date for The Last of Us Part 2 and a July date for Tsushima, Iron Man VR has been MIA. Until this week, with Sony now confirming a July 3rd release for the PlayStation VR exclusive. This puts it just 2 weeks ahead of Ghost of Tsushima, which should give you enough time to finish it. Sony promised more news in the coming weeks. It's good news. I mean, this is a really big VR title for PlayStation, so it's good to have it actually on the books now.
Yeah, it's nice for them to get some positive news coverage for once, because it did sort of just disappear, especially considering Last of Us has been in the news, which was one of the 2. I know Last of Us 2 is much bigger, but it was one of the 2 games involved in that sort of whole delay thing. So it's nice for Iron Man VR and the people who are looking forward to it to now get the news they've been waiting for.
Yeah, so that's all positive here. I don't have a PSVR personally. I can't remember if you do, so I'm not sure if this is something you'll be able to jump in, early on, or what do you think? Iron Man VR. And you had you previously had a PSVR. You don't have one now. Is this a title you think it's worth, or it's like it's enough to get you to jump back into VR?
Probably not, to be honest. I think for the cost of them, I think it takes like a real. I mean, they're pretty much the cost of a console. And there's not many consoles I would buy for one game. So no, probably not. I think the only game that I've seen VR wise is Half-Life Alyx. That's the only thing that sort of really drove me to maybe get one. But yeah, like I've said before, my brother's got a Quest. So that sort of like softens the blow as well,
right?
Because I can always just steal that off him. He's only 11. I'm much bigger than him.
Yeah, that's true. You know what? Take advantage of that, Callum. All right, so let's segue into our next story here. This is Epic Games announces Unreal Engine 5 with stunning PS5 demo. Have you got a chance to, before I get into the article here, watch some of that footage? What did you think, just like overall?
Yeah, it's really cool. It's I try not to sort of like get too excited about it. I think the most exciting takeaway is that Unreal Engine 5 is a thing. I think that's quite cool. It looks really cool, but I mean, so do all the sort of demo showcases for new consoles. It looks awesome, and I think the most exciting thing are the people, like the devs who know about this stuff, talking about it, because I mean they're praising it so much. Tim Sweeney from Epic saying about how it would only be possible with the work that like the engineers have done with the PlayStation 5 with the new SSD and everything. So from that perspective, it's exciting. The video itself is awesome, but I think the praise that it's received alongside that video is just as exciting as well.
Yeah, what do you think? There was some hate online, as always is the case with the internet, but like issues with the fact that this wasn't an actual game that showed off. It was more of a demo, but it's showing off the potential the PS5 could do compared to like a traditional unveiling. Did you share any of that same issues? I didn't have any.
Not really. I think this was more just a sort of like wrong place, wrong time kind of thing, if that makes sense, in the way that every single time an engine gets a big update, they have a amazing like thing. Like Unity, for example, when that had its most recent update, it released this insane sort of like animation that was made in Unity, and it always says that running in real time on Unity, and I think it just says this is obviously Unreal Engine 5 showing off its new engine, and it's running on a PlayStation 5. Right. So I don't think it was to show what a PlayStation 5 could do. It was just using a PlayStation 5 to show off this new engine. And then you've got people like Tim Sweeney saying, who's obviously the CEO of Epic, who make Unreal Engine. He's just praising the PlayStation 5, and that's all there is, I think. I don't think this was to be like, look at this game demo on the PlayStation 5. It was more like, look at what Unreal Engine 5 can do, and it's running on the PlayStation 5. So I think it's fair enough, you know, if people look at it from that perspective. But you know, if you look at every other engine, even like Blender, like the 3D modeling software, every time there's a big update, they want to show off what it can do, and they'll always be using something to run it.
Right.
And it just so happens that Unreal Engine's using PlayStation 5 to show it off. And then Tim Sweeney made some really nice comments about the console. So yeah, I don't think it was intended to be showing a game. I think it was just showing what Unreal Engine 5 is capable of on next-gen hardware.
Yeah, I was reading, and this was intended to, with the original plans was when E3 before it was canceled, this was going to be a playable demo at E3 to once again show off that this is, you know, an engine demo, but it was going to be playable. Yeah, no, I mean, it's awesome to me to see that even though this is just a concept and this is really to show off the power of the engine, it makes me even more excited for PS5 for next gen, because the engine looks absolutely beautiful. I know they've said that they aren't really intending on this thing being like usable, or you won't see a game that uses this until like 2021. I want to say they were predicting. Now that's just like for mainstream, but maybe there's already teams that are allowed to use this, and this could be like a early next gen game, but they're trying to keep those expectations in check a little bit.
Yeah, well, I think that makes sense. I mean, if Unreal Engine 5 is brand new, then obviously teams have to sort of use it and create and finish a game on it.
Right.
And for 2 years, well, even 1 year from now, 2021, that's a pretty fair enough sort of timeline, I'd say.
I did hear some criticism because this game doesn't show off, this engine demo doesn't show off any like RTX, any technology like that. It's just using the engine to do all these crazy reflections and light stuff. But it's just more of a testament to what this engine can do. It's
exactly, yeah. I think you've got it spot on. I think if it's not using ray tracing and can look that good, then it looks awesome. I think it's really cool, and I think a lot of people are, you know, getting a bit because they've talked about ray tracing and 4K. It's like with the Assassin's Creed Valhalla. Saying about how it's going to be 30 FPS,
right?
But it's going to be 30 FPS at 4K with ray tracing,
right?
Which is
it's gonna be beautiful.
Yeah, and to be able to get a PC that can do 4K 30 FPS with ray tracing on, that's going to cost you like $1,500 at least. So for people who are like getting annoyed about that, it's like that's not the standard. Like 60 FPS 4K with ray tracing is not the standard at all at the moment.
Yeah.
It's even rare in the PC community. So yeah, I think people are just sort of hearing all these cool things and expecting them in everything, and it's just like it's not how it works really.
Yeah, it's very strange, but also the whole like 60 versus 30 frame per second thing. This demo running, I think it's running at 30. It looks gorgeous. All the Naughty Dog stuff is running at 30. Besides like The Last of Us 2 when it came, or The Last of Us when it came onto PS4, they had that like 60 frame upgrade. But you can still make games. They even look like more cinematic. Because like there's just like different flavors. Sometimes it works for a different game versus like something like Call of Duty that has to be 60 frames per second. So I don't agree that every game has to hit that benchmark if it's not the best for that experience.
Yeah, and it's just numbers. It's like with the whole teraflops thing,
right? Whatever the fuck.
I mean, yeah, exactly. I mean, if you're an avid PC gamer, you play all your games at 60 frames a second, then you will notice the drop to 30. But like you said, games that are made with 30 in mind will look good at 30 FPS.
Right.
So yeah, I don't think it's as big a deal as people make it out to be. I think it's just people being spoiled and just having crazy expectations. And going back to when I started Gears Tactics, I capped it at 60 frames a second because my monitor can't show any more than that. And the cutscenes are capped at 30. You can set it to unlimited, but the highest you can set it to capped is 30 FPS. Gotcha. Because, like you said, more cinematic moments, it's sometimes nicer to have it at a lower frame rate. And so yeah, I don't think it's as big a deal as people make it out to be. It's just the toxic PC community trying to sort of feel better about spending thousands and thousands of dollars on their PCs.
Yeah, no, they're still toxic console fanboys for sure still too. Like they still are like, hey, our consoles have to be 60 frames per second in this next gen stuff. It's like, all right, man, but not all games need to run that way, or it's just like it's complicated.
And console players don't have any right to that anyway, because they've barely seen 60 FPS running, so they don't even know what what they're missing really.
You mentioned it's a numbers thing, so people see the on the box kind of details, and they go, "Oh, okay, it's got to look like this and play like this." It's like, come on.
And I think that's what's happened with this demo. I mean, they've seen running on PlayStation 5. They've seen ray tracing mentioned before. I think I saw it was at 1440p as well, and so people saying it's not a 4K. That it's just ridiculous.
Right.
I mean, I've seen games at 4K. I've played games at 60 frames a second, and I'm still blown away by the games I play on PlayStation 4 at 1080p at 30 frames a second. So it is definitely a numbers thing, and it's definitely like a mental thing, and you just need to sort of appreciate what you're playing, really.
Right. Well, yeah, we'll segue out of that one, Callum. We basically hit all the details there, so we'll leave that. I'm very excited, and I mean, this shows off. You're right that it's not meant to show off PlayStation 5 like power. At the same time, I'm excited that this is possible, going into next gen, because it's funny, like watching that trailer, that gameplay, that concept there. It's like games already look so great, so beautiful. We just watched Ghost of Tsushima. That's where we are now. So it's like I thought maybe I don't need to see this next gen, but really next gen looks even more dope. It's like we keep pushing the boundary, and I don't feel like it's possible, but somehow we end up being blown away again.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, I think I think people are just too strung up on seeing these numbers, and it's just it just all goes back to that weird toxicity that people have towards opposing things.
Right. Yep. Alrighty, Callum. So we got this next thing was pretty cool as far as like once again touching on visually stunning stuff. So this is Mafia screenshots show gorgeous remake of first game, release date listed. This is GameSpot has the details here. Michael Higham has the details. On May 13th, 2K Games teased Mafia Trilogy and stated that the bigger reveal is set for May 19th. The short teaser video featured voices from the three main characters in the series and in-game footage of Vito Scaletta and Lincoln Clay from Mafia 2 and 3, respectively. But what about the original game? Well, screenshots have appeared on the Microsoft Store for what's called Mafia Definitive Edition, and it looks to be a full-on remake. There's also an apparent release date listed August 27th through 28th this year. Yeah, so I have the screenshots here pulled up. It's just pretty mind-blowing how this game is shaping up to be.
Yeah, it looks really cool. Are you a fan of the series?
I'm not, but I'm not opposed to like jumping in if it looks like this. I've never been not like I'm not a fan. It's just something about maybe the story or the setting never appeals to me. But seeing this makes me think about giving it another shot.
Yeah, I think that's exactly how I feel. I mean, I played a little bit of Mafia 2 back on PlayStation 3. I think it was like one of the really early PlayStation Plus games on PS3. And I think that's when I played it, and I think I enjoyed it. I just never sort of carried on with it for whatever reason.
Yeah.
But yeah, I think, like you said, I think this could be a really good opportunity to jump back in. So yeah, that's really, really exciting. The screenshot looks awesome. I mean, I'm sure it's probably rendered to high heaven.
Right.
That screenshot at like ridiculous resolutions and everything. But just knowing, even if it was just a remaster with some touched up visuals, I think that's really cool. Really cool setting. There's not enough games anymore that are set in that sort of time. So yeah, that could be really exciting.
That's the thing. Yeah, you're right that that's a setting that's not really mined very often, and it should be, because it's really dope. And so I'm hoping that whatever biases I had, it's like I need to jump into this series.
Yeah.
Awesome. Well, this next story here, this one, man, fucking got me excited. I dusted off my skateboard and I'm ready to go. So I have Superman blaring in the background. This is a Tony Hawk Pro Skater 1 and 2 remake announced for PS4, Xbox, and PC. So I have the details here. Jonathan Dornbush has the details from IGN. Tony Hawk Pro Skater is back, as Activision has announced Tony Hawk's Pro Skater 1 and 2, a compilation remake of the first two THPS games developed by Crash Bandicoot Insane Trilogy studio Vicarious Visions, which has a long history with the series. THPS 1 and 2 will be released for PS4, Xbox, PC via the Epic Game Store on September 4th, 2020. That's for PC. With pre-orders offering fans early access to a demo of the iconic warehouse level, the game is a remake compiling the first two games in the beloved THPS franchise, including all levels, even the secret ones. And IGN spoke with Vicarious Visions studio head on Jen O'Neill to learn more about what the new and returning THPS 1 and 2 mechanics would be. Yeah, so I mean, I've watched the trailer. It looks really dope. I can't wait for this. I'm a huge fan of the Tony Hawk's Pro Skater franchise. The last one, of course, bummed everyone out with how bad it was. So this is great to return, and Tony Hawk is involved too. I know he had issues with Activision when that whole thing happened. So I'm glad to see this.
Yeah, it's really cool. I think we spoke about this not long ago, about maybe because I think there were some rumors about it, and I think we both sort of were skeptical because of the licensing with the music, but that even seems to be handled as well. Yeah, it's really cool. I haven't played a skating game probably since the Pro Skater games. I never really got into skate or anything, so I'm really excited to play these again. I think they are just like a real mood, like they're just a real. Yep. Like a real like vibe, and I think that would just be really fun. And I played. There's a game that reminded me of Tony Hawk's slightly, which is going to sound really weird at first, and it was what's that game that was by Insomniac on Xbox?
Oh, Sunset Overdrive.
Yes, yeah, I played that on my PC, and it reminded me of Tony Hawk's in the way it was just like it had really silly quests, like like where you've got to like grind along and collect things and I sort of like felt that similar like vibe that Tony Hawk's Pro Skater used to give off, and I was just thinking like I really miss those kind of games where you can just like relax and just have fun and listen to good music. And,
right.
So yeah, I'm really happy that's going to come out. That'd be such a nice like palate cleanser and maybe a sort of a little like resurgence. I know a lot of people want more skating games, so if this does well, then hopefully more studios and more sort of people will jump onto that.
I think so. I mean, there's been it's a franchise that like should have never went away. It did, but now I imagine the sales are going to be pretty nuts for this. So seeing it come back is going to hopefully get Activision on board with developing another one, get Tony Hawk on board, and making sure that it's a proper sequel. I can't wait. I mean, I grew up loving this franchise. I remember the first time playing it. It came on the demo for the warehouse came on a PlayStation 1 disc. There was like a Pizza Hut promotion. Yeah, and so me and my uncle at the time, he had a PS1. We booted it up and we were just like blown away. And I don't think it came with all the soundtrack. I think it was just that one Goldfinger Superman song, and we just played that until the fucking disc melted. Like it was just, we loved it.
Yeah, I remember playing Pro Skater 1 on a PS1 that I can't even remember how I got it, but it wasn't long ago. It was probably like 2 years ago or so, and me and my friends were playing PS1. And we were laughing so much because you can take the disc out whilst you're playing it and it still works.
Really?
And we were just like, we were beside ourselves laughing just because we were like, how does that even work? Like on such an old like console, how does it know?
Yeah.
Like, how does it preload everything? It was just so funny. But yeah, no, this is really cool. And Vicarious Visions are great. I mean, they with Crash, they did such a good job of bringing that feeling that the original Crash games gave. And like improving it in some ways. So I think because there's already been a Tony Hawk's Pro Skater remaster as well, if I remember correctly. And it wasn't very great. So I think it's a great studio to head this project, and excited to see it.
Yeah, you're right. And that was my first question. Once I heard that this was happening, I was like, okay, who is doing it? And with Vicarious, you trust them. They've done the Crash Bandicoot reboot, the Spyro one, so they know what they're doing. Yeah. So, I mean, I'm super excited. They're getting most of the music. That's my next question. Okay, what about the music? Most of it's there. Of course, they can't get all of it because that's the reality. But, man, I can't wait. This can't come soon enough. It's September 4th is when it's coming out.
So, to be fair, it's quite soon considering it's only just been announced. But, I mean, then again, it's not like it's a huge game for the fans, obviously, but it's probably not going to be like a huge game in that respect. So yeah, it's really cool. It looks lovely as well. It looks really, really nice. I'm hoping that there's going to be like, was it Pro Skater 2 which had Spider-Man in it? Yeah,
so it had Spider-Man. You could unlock. There's that one cop you can unlock and other like secret characters, and they kept doing that with the other ones. Like you can get Wolverine at one point, Darth Maul. Like it got pretty nuts.
Yeah. So I wonder how they'll approach that. That'd be quite fun to see. Maybe like a PlayStation exclusive. You can get Spider-Man. Something like that.
Whoa.
Obviously with the game.
Yep, and like the updated Spider-Man with like his newer suit. Yeah.
But yeah, we'll have to wait and see. But yeah, I'm really, really looking forward to that. I think that would just be such a nice game to play. Hopefully around that time is when everything should be getting back to normal as well, you'd imagine. So it could be like a real happy time.
Yeah, I agree.
If we make it to September.
Dude, I don't care if we're making it. I'm somehow breaking in with my skateboard and playing this game somehow. All right, Cam, let's segue into another hotly anticipated game. This is some more like behind the scene dev videos that are coming out for The Last of Us 2. So PlayStation announces The Last of Us Part 2 video series, first episode available now. IGN's Wesley LeBlanc has the details. PlayStation has announced a new Last of Us Part 2 video series, and the first episode is available now. With little less than a month to go until Last of Us Part 2 is out in the wild, PlayStation announced this new series in a blog post today on May 13th with plans for a new episode to be released every Wednesday for the next 3 weeks. The series will cover different aspects of the game, including its story, gameplay, and more. Last of Us Part 2 is by far the largest and most ambitious game we've ever made, and there will be so much for you to dig into when it arrives on June 19th. Naughty Dog Senior Communications Manager Scott Lowe said in the blog post, leading up to the launch, we're releasing a brand new series of videos breaking down key aspects of the game. Lowe said each video will feature interviews with members of the Naughty Dog team to discuss design, technology, and many of the ideas that helped shape the game over its 6-year-long period of development. The first episode, which is available now, is titled Inside the Story and dives into the core themes being explored in the story, including a look at Ellie and Joel's life in Jackson County, Wyoming. Callum, how do you feel about this? I feel like as long as they stay away from story stuff, then this is fine. This is a cool thing to explore.
Mm-hmm. I don't like it. I don't like the fact that they're doing this so soon. It seems like something that should come after the game's out. They've already released a story trailer not long ago. They've already had the leaks. I just don't think it's necessary. I don't think they need to do this. And I think it'd be awesome to have this if this happened after the game to try and like keep some interest in it and just like I'm sure they'll do it behind the scenes of the game like they did with their last 2 games.
Yeah.
But yeah, I definitely won't be watching them. I'll be staying away. I've already seen plenty.
Right.
To sort of get me interested and show some more races. But yeah, I'm not. I won't be watching any of them.
You're totally right that they don't really need this. I mean, I'm such a person trying to stay away from story spoilers rather that I don't think I need this. For me, maybe it's to sell more copies for people who are on the fence. I mean, if you're on the fence for The Last of Us, I don't know what the fuck to tell you. So I don't really know. You're right. Who's this for? But yeah. I mean, just to stay away from spoilers, I definitely won't be watching either. But I guess it's cool to have this. But you're right. After the fact, once you finish the game, you can then go into the behind the scenes stuff.
Yeah, and I think having like a real deep look into the aspects of the game, like it sounds like they're going to be looking at like the game mechanics and things. That's again something I want to see for myself,
right.
Like when I play it.
Right.
I think that in a way is an even worse spoiler than the story because the story is going to be so deep. It's going to be hard to spoil anyway. But like with game mechanics, I really want to find out how the game has evolved, new things they've added. Whilst I'm playing it, I don't want to know in detail and broken down how the game's going to play, what they've added.
Right.
So yeah, I'm not. I mean, some people obviously don't mind or like to see these kind of things. Like for example, Ghost of Tsushima, I really enjoyed watching that breakdown of the gameplay. But for something like Last of Us Part 2, I've seen plenty to keep me excited.
Right. No, you're very right on this. And with Ghost of Tsushima, it's like they needed to show something because we didn't know very much, and it's a new property. With Last of Us, you definitely want to keep this. I mean, it's going to exist on the internet on YouTube. You can watch afterwards. We'll just stay away from it, basically.
Yeah. I've got no problem with them doing it. Like I said, I'm sure people love this. But yeah, I don't like it. I won't be watching it.
Gotcha. That's fair. Yeah. Alrighty, Callum. Our next story here is about the PS5 SSD. PS5 SSD is far ahead of high-end PCs, Epic CEO says. So we kind of touched on this. We're talking about some of that UE5 demo. So Matt Kim's IGN has the details. Today, Epic Games reveals its next-gen game engine, Unreal Engine 5. To showcase the power of its new engine, Epic revealed a brand new, fully playable tech demo, which we just watched or talked about. IGN asked what advancements are in the PS5 that allows for Unreal Engine 5 to function at this high of a level on the console. Epic founder and CEO Tim Sweeney explained that it was the system storage advancements Sony hardware architect Mark Cerny revealed earlier this year that makes the next-gen Sony console powerhouse. I think it's, first of all, Sony has a massive increase in graphics performance compared to previous generations, but I guess we get that every generation, Sweeney joked. But Sony's made another breakthrough that in many ways is more fundamental, which is a multi-order magnitude increase in storage bandwidth and reduction in storage latency. As revealed back in March in a digital deep dive on the PS5, hosted by Sony architect Mark Cerny, Sony revealed its custom solid-state drive that targets at least 5 gigabyte per second in terms of bandwidth. That's compared to the 50 to 100 megabits capable on the current PS4 hard drives. The PS5 puts a vast amount of flash memory very, very close to the processor, says Sweeney, so much that it really fundamentally changes the trade-off that games can make and stream in. And that's absolutely critical in this kind of demo, Sweeney explained. This is not just a whole lot of polygons of memory, it's also a lot of polygons being loaded every frame as you walk around through the environment, and this sort of detail you don't see in the world would absolutely not be possible in any scale without these breakthroughs that Sony has made. So yeah, it's just more info on how monumental this change in these new SSDs is going to be for next gen.
Yeah, it's really, really cool. And again, I've seen so many fragile PC players being like, oh, how is this better than normal SSDs and all this? And it's like, if they actually read it, it's because it's customized for games. Like an SSD for a PC is to hold your operating system, and it's a multi-purpose thing. It's for documents and videos and everything. Whereas this, they've been able to make it so that games benefit from it more. The only benefit that games get from SSDs on PCs is that they load quicker. They aren't able to be used for frames loading polygons, and the PlayStation 5 because it's a custom sort of machine, they're able to, like you said, to put memory close to the processor, whatever that means.
Right.
But that's what seems to make this sort of trade-off in games. And I think that's what a lot of people who are on the sort of PC bandwagon of, consoles are so far behind and all of this, they don't understand that these things are custom built from the ground up for games, whereas PCs aren't. PCs, you need all these different components and they all need to speak to each other for so many other things other than games. Whereas a PlayStation 5 is solely built to play games on. And that's why it's so impressive. And that's why these kind of things are only able to be done on consoles, because they need that custom optimization to do what they do. And if you want that kind of power on a PC, you need to spend like thousands and thousands of dollars. And I think what Tim Sweeney's saying here, which is so important, is that these guys who make these engines, they need that support as well. They can't think, right, let's take a $2,000 PC and build an engine around those components. They can't do that because no one will be able to play their games. Whereas with the PlayStation 5, they know that they can build an engine that takes advantage of all of this custom, amazing tech, and build their engine around that. A lot of PC players think that consoles hold games back, but they clearly don't, because engines are built around the hardware that they're intended to be used on. So to have custom hardware, that is what actually allows these breakthroughs to happen. So yeah, I think it's awesome. I think you're really starting to see like a real apex of sort of technical engineering when it comes to games consoles now.
Yeah, no, I mean, brilliant points. You're right that, and it seems like at face value, it's a controversial statement to say, SSDs in consoles, next gen consoles are going to be far ahead of PCs. Mm-hmm. But yeah, you're right. Mm-hmm. I mean, that's the benefit of having custom architecture, having motherboards built a certain way where they are only able to communicate in that speed. When you're right, with the PC, they're kind of stock, platforms that have to have the certain way that they communicate with all the different things that you swap in and out. But that's the benefit of having, and I'm sure after a couple of years, PCs are going to also trump this kind of stuff for sure. But it's like at the moment, the way that they're making them custom made, it's hard to beat. I mean, and that's just that's the reality of it. But it's just people get emotional and they see that tagline and then they fire off their tweet and stuff.
Yeah, but also PCs will be able to trump this, but they'll be doing that by using Unreal Engine 5. And Unreal Engine 5 was built the way it is because of the PlayStation 5, because it allowed its engineers to work with this custom SSD. It's probably going to change the way SSDs are with PCs now as well. I I think I mean I could be wrong, but I really do feel that these custom consoles are the things that drive this stuff forwards. It's just that PCs are capable of doing so much, but it just costs a lot to do that.
Gotcha. Yeah, no, you're totally right. Let's segue into our next one here. We got just some update on the PS4. It keeps selling gangbusters, so it's at PlayStation 4 reaches the $110.4 million sales mark. This is details from VentureBeat. Mike Minotti has it here. As part of its financial results today, Sony revealed that lifetime sales for PS4 have now passed 110.4 million consoles. That number was at 108.9 million in February. The PS4 came out back in 2013. Today, the console is on its last legs, with the PS5 set to release later this year. PlayStation 4 has been a big hit, becoming the number 2 best-selling home console of all time. It is behind the PlayStation 2, which sold around 155 million machines. Sadly for the PS4, it looks unlikely to pass its older brother. Maybe that's a task for PS5, and while Sony admitted that the ongoing pandemic has presented some challenges, the new console is still set to launch this holiday season. Just to kind of put into perspective how successful PS4 has been to reach almost past PS2, which is the top of the list there. But I mean, we're at the end of its life cycle. It seems like maybe it's going to be, we're really going to see. I'll let that siren pass by. We're really going to see it like taper off because we're gearing towards next gen. Everyone basically and their mom already has a PS4, so I don't know how many more they're going to keep selling.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. I think I doubt it'll reach 155, but who knows? I mean, it's pretty well known that the PS2 only even reached that because it was like by far the cheapest DVD player at the time.
True.
Like by huge amounts. So yeah, I don't think there's going to be that kind of thing ever again that will allow such like insane numbers.
Right.
I think that's what they tried with the PS3 as well, because Blu-ray at the time was like $900,000.
Right. But that meant the PS3 was traditionally, or notoriously higher priced console, exactly, so it was a hard kind of gamble.
Yeah, exactly. So I think they were just trying to mimic the success of what came before, and it failed it failed miserably at first, and then managed to pick itself up. But so I think 110 million in today's climate without that being like a thing is insane. It's such a amazing benchmark. I can't imagine the PlayStation 5 selling or beating that, because I think Xbox have been coming out swinging a bit better this time. So I think the numbers will probably be slightly more even. I still think PlayStation will probably outsell just because of the sheer like volume of PlayStation 4s compared to Xboxes. That I think people, like myself, if the PlayStation 5 was like 10 times worse than the Xbox, I'd still get the PlayStation just because I'm so involved in that ecosystem. We were talking earlier about how much I love trophies,
right?
And the meta game that comes with that ecosystem. And I think that the percentage of people like that alone will probably ensure that the PlayStation 5 will still come out on top in sales. But yeah, I think it will definitely be closer. So I don't think that they'll probably get to the amount they've sold now, because I think that is testament down to how amazing the PS4's been. With its amazing library of games, but also how poor Xbox started, and they didn't really do the PlayStation 3 where they managed to rally around. I mean, they definitely have rallied around now, but I think it's far too late.
Right. No, you're totally right. They did with Game Pass. And that side from their hardware sales, was like having that is really a game changer for them and kind of bringing them back to life. But no, you're totally right. I mean, I think it's seeing that sales of 110 million. It puts into perspective our transition into next gen with the fact that there's so many consoles. Developers are going to make sure that their game is still on current gen, because that's where the money is. So I think we're going to see longer legs for PS4 going into PS5, because that's where you want your game to be, so that it actually has the potential to sell. So I think you're even if you have a PS4, if you bought it today, you're going to be safe knowing that, because there's so many consoles there, those devs are going to want to make sure that their game has a presence there. Maybe it's stripped down, it's not as next gen, but it's still there in some capacity.
Yeah, well, I think it was the same with the PS2. I mean, when the 360 came out in 2005, 2006, there were like multi-platform games for PS2 and 360. I remember having a PS2 up to the PS3, and my brothers had a 360, so they were still sort of fairly neck and neck at first. With obvious advantages to the Xbox. But even like God of War 2 came out on the PS2 I'm pretty sure after the PlayStation 3 came out. Jack 3 was very, very close as well. So yeah, and I think you're right. I think the amount it's sold, the amount of players there's going to be on those consoles, the longer devs are going to support it. Because I'm pretty sure I mean, PS3 was supported for a while as well, but so many people just went straight to PS4. I mean, it was quite affordable at the time.
Right.
You know, £350 in the UK, or £349 in the UK it came out at, and I remember at the time thinking. I mean, I at the time I lived at home and was working full time, so
you bought two of them.
Just
because you could.
But yeah, it was a good price, and I think the PS5 is going to be a different story. I think the PS4 is, like you said, sold so many. There's going to be so many people on it who don't want to move off of it yet, and they don't really need to. And the PS5 is probably going to be, I reckon, about $500-$600. So it's going to be a bit more of a step up in price as well.
Right. Yeah, I think 500 is a safe bet, considering the amount of tech we're going to know it's going to have to be in there. Yeah, I think 500 is safe.
Yeah.
Awesome. Yeah, I mean, I know some of there's data already out there, like there's facts that we might have even talked about in the past, but for PS2, it was still supported with like games like FIFA and other sports games till PS4's life cycle. I want to say like the first 1 or 2 years of PS4, there were still sports games that were on PS2. So like they kept.
I'd love to see like the statistics of how many people bought those games.
Sure.
I bet it's like huge numbers. But yeah, and I mean, I was talking to. I've got a few sort of indie dev friends who live. One of them lives in Malaysia, and one of them lives in the Philippines. And they both their most recent console is the PS2. They still haven't got the PlayStation 3 or a PlayStation 4, just because they said that it can be quite hard to get hold of them. And but yeah, so there's definitely a lot that we don't see and that we aren't really acclimatized to. But yeah, I think you're definitely right. I think the amount of PlayStation 4s sold will influence studios and maybe restrict their games slightly in a way.
For a little bit, and then we'll be off to the races, I'm sure, after a couple of years.
Yeah. And I'm sure the PlayStation exclusives will be very quickly shifted over as quickly as possible.
Right. Well, if it's stuff like Ghost of Tsushima, which we just saw, it's like, bring it on. I'm fine with being with current gen for a while, because these games still look beautiful.
They're going to be stuck between a bit of a rock and a hard place, though, because they want people to buy the PlayStation 5, but they also want to make money. Right. So like they're going to have a real decision to make, to sort of forecast, right, how many PlayStation 5s do you think this game will sell if it's exclusive to it, versus how much money do you think we'll get in revenue if we also put it on the PS4. So it's going to be really interesting, especially from Sony's first parties, to see how they approach that.
Although that's an interesting point, just the fact that they're going to want to make sure they have a presence on PS4, but with the whole change in architecture with these super fast SSDs, is it going to be hard for them to go back and almost develop two games with the fact that they can load so much faster on PS5, but they're stuck with, the old hard drives and architecture with PS4? I wonder if that's going to complicate things. Yeah,
because it's going to seem so like old and prehistoric to them as soon as they start developing. As soon as they get a taste of what they can achieve, if they're developing exclusively for PS5, it's going to be really hard to then reverse engineer that and sort of restrict it to PlayStation 4 as well.
Yep. Interesting. Well, we'll see. Our next story here is more PS5 stuff, so we'll get into that. So this is more rumors on when we're actually going to see, because that's the thing. We talk all day about PS5. We still haven't seen the fucking box. We don't know a price. We still haven't locked down an actual date. But
it's kind of becoming kind of like kind of attractive in a way. Like they're really sort of like teasing us, and it's sort of like I've stopped sort of being annoyed, and I'm now like really like drooling at the mouth to sort of see this thing. So I don't know whether this is going to be like a stroke of genius, or whether I'm going to wake up tomorrow and be annoyed again.
No, I think that's a point I've had for a while now too. It's that because they've withdrawn all the information, and they've been withholding rather, it's like they're now increasing that hype. Hopefully they don't blow it, but it's like I'll read online, we talk about like following different things on Twitter where it's just like general gaming conversations. It's always like we haven't seen anything from PS5 and Xbox is going to win, blah blah blah, but it's like really they're now creating so much hype. Anything they show, people are thirsty for it. So it's like they've kind of, whether they've done it on purpose or not, they've expertly crafted this hype machine, and so now they just have to deliver. But it's like everyone's hungrily waiting for what they show.
Yeah, I mean, it could be that they just understand how volatile the gaming community is.
Sure.
I mean, they've been hit by it hard before. Because I mean, you look at it now. I mean, what, a week ago, 2 weeks ago, it was everybody in Xbox's camp. Or well, I don't say everybody, but the vocal minority of people on the internet being loud were in Xbox's camp. And now it's completely swung the other way because you've had this Inside Xbox event, which people were really unimpressed with.
Yep.
Which I actually thought was quite good, but the majority of people seem to be unimpressed with it. And now this Ghost of Tsushima thing, and I just had a quick look on Twitter, and people were like going mad about it.
I'm sure.
It's now swung the complete other way, and so people are now forgetting all of these sort of things they were annoyed about.
Right.
And so it could just be a stroke of masterclass from PlayStation, really, because I mean they got. I think that's where we've all been confused as well, because we've all been like, they must have such clever marketing teams. Why aren't they doing this? Why aren't they doing this? And now we're sat here after seeing Ghost of Tsushima, kind of like, oh, I don't even care that I haven't seen it. Right. It's kind of like mysterious and sexy in a way.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I hear you. Eventually we are going to see it, and so this is our next story, is just more rumors about when we're going to actually see some PS5 details. Yeah. So this is on Forbes. Paul Tassi has the details. Here's when we'll see Sony's PS5 reveal event. Here's when Sony's PS5 reveal event will probably be. Two different industry sources are saying roughly the same thing about when Sony's doing its next, presumably large PS5 event. VentureBeat's Jeff Grubb says the event will be June 4th. Bloomberg's Jason Schreier, previously of Kotaku, has said a more general window from early to mid-June. But the point is, somewhere around a month from now, Sony has left far more mystery in place about the PS5 and its upcoming launch, and we've seen from Microsoft to date. While not terribly important in the grand scheme of things, we still not have seen the actual box design of the unit, only the controller. We also really don't know what games are launching with PS5 other than a few third-party titles like Assassin's Creed Valhalla. But so hopefully if this is on point somewhere around the right time, early June, mid-June, so it's coming soon.
Yeah, I want to say, now this might be a little bit of a conspiracy, but I want to say that the way Sony or PlayStation handled Last of Us and the PS4, the first Last of Us and the PS4, was that, if I'm correct, they either announced the PS4 or had a big showcase for the PS4, and then 2 weeks later Last of Us came out, or a week later Last of Us came out. So it was like that month everything was PlayStation.
Gotcha.
You've had all this stuff revealed about the PlayStation 4 at the time, the new console. The Last of Us has just come out and is breaking records everywhere. So it just gave PlayStation this huge boost going into the PS4, which could, I mean, we don't know, that could have a huge thing to do with why it sold so well. Because I'm pretty sure it was E3 where they had all these reveals for the PlayStation 4, showed it off and everything. Yeah. And then Last of Us came out literally the weekend afterwards. So whether or not, because it definitely has, I mean, we were just saying about maybe Sony have been masterclassing this the whole time, but it has definitely seemed like Sony have been holding off showing off their PS5 for a long time. And it could be to do with the fact they've been waiting to pair it with The Last of Us 2's release, the same way they did with the first game.
Sure.
Because if they show it off June the 4th, what's that, 10 or 2 weeks later?
I think 19th is, Last of Us 2.
Yeah, so Last of Us 2 comes out, so that would be the same sort of tactic, to just have everybody talking about PlayStation properties, everyone talking about, have you seen the new PS5, what it looks like, when it's coming out, you can pre-order it now. Have you played Last of Us 2? It's, it's all this and that. So maybe that's to do with why they've been holding off. They've been waiting to know when The Last of Us 2 is definitely coming.
Right.
And then they're going to reveal it, because that's exactly what they did with the PS4. So that's just my little conspiracy.
That's a great, that's a good connecting of the dots. And I think it's a great idea because, you're going to own a good month basically, or a solid 2 weeks. If you pair it, first week is PS5, the next week is Last of Us 2 chatter, and then it's you own that entire landscape with PlayStation. Yeah.
And and like I said, it's exactly what they did with the PS4. I don't know exactly what it was they did, but I just because I remember it stuck with me for ages that they did that, and I just always have thought it's such a clever thing to do, is to it's kind of like a 1-2 punch. They've been waiting for so long to do anything. They've just been waiting, and then that 1-2 punch would be PS5 reveal, Last of Us 2's out, and people are playing it. It's I think it could definitely be to do with that, and obviously it's only PlayStation that and like the higher ups who know when Last of Us 2 would definitely be coming out, so they would always be able to push off the reveal for the PS5 to that date anyway. So it could be why, because I mean a lot of people have been saying that it seems weird. It seems as though they were meant to reveal it now. They were meant to reveal it then. They haven't for some reason, but they were also meant to release Last of Us 2. So
right.
It could be that they're trying to sort of time those together.
Yeah. No, it's a great point. And either way, I mean, I'm hoping then that all leads to June is going to be a smorgasbord of PS news in general.
Yeah.
I can't fucking wait.
Yeah. June would be great if that happens, because I mean that would mean we'd have a PS5 reveal, we'd have Last of Us 2, and then next month we'd have Ghost of Tsushima. So yeah, that would be great.
Although someone put this thought out on Twitter, I forget who it was, but it's kind of ironic now that months ago we knew that PlayStation wasn't going to have an E3 presence before E3 was canceled, but now instead we're still getting the same announcements around the same time. So they were prepared to at least very much like compete with E3 by announcing their stuff around that same window. But even though they weren't going to be there, they're still going to use that time frame to announce their stuff.
Yeah, it could be to do with that. But I think the main reason I sort of think it's to coincide with Last of Us 2 is because there's been so many things saying that PlayStation 5 were meant to show it off. They've delayed it, or they've delayed sort of the reveal. They were meant to do it now. They were meant to do it at this point, because I'm sure there was even like things saying back in like February they were meant to reveal it or something like that. And so I think it's definitely interesting that they're looking like they're going to reveal it around E3 time. But I personally think that's probably coincidental, because if anything, because of what's happened with the pandemic, and if anything that people are saying about them delaying it is to go by, then I think they probably would have announced it before then anyway.
True. Nice. So we'll end it on this video I just uploaded to the doc. It's something I found this morning. It looked at face value like it was like a full-on leak of this controller, but it's actually a concept that somebody made. But it's pretty dope. I want to get your take on it. So I sent you it's a tweet.
Oh yeah, I saw this.
Okay,
yeah,
gotcha.
I saw that. Yeah, I really liked it. I'm not too keen on the controller thing. It's a bit like the Wii U, but the UI on the screen is awesome. Like the way it sort of like slides across.
Yep.
Is really, really cool.
Although someone brought up, if this was a reality, like the battery life would be half an hour, because it's like the screen, brightness, and like the fact the controller like is a convertible and pops to the side with all those other options. Like this thing would last 5 minutes, but it's a cool idea.
Yeah, but who is this guy? I mean, he's got like a McLaren in his living room.
You're right. I didn't notice that before. I was hypnotized by the PS5.
Yeah, so but yeah, no, it does look really cool. It's a really cool concept. Does the controller like slides up, doesn't it?
Yeah, it slides up.
That'd be so expensive.
Right. Yeah, this would be like $400 just for the controller. But it almost like pops out and reveals more buttons. The actual buttons themselves are LEDs, where like the buttons will hide and then come out like the actual sacred symbols, and it's pretty nuts. I mean, if anything, they're maybe taking some notes like, hey, this could be something that would look really cool. Yeah,
I think it looks very advanced, and I'd imagine that if something like that happened like now, it'd probably like there'd be so many issues with it. But then again, everybody thought that about the Switch, like with the sliding in, everyone was these things are going to break all the time, and they're actually really resilient. Can
you tell with this video, is this an actual thing this guy made, or is this all like a rendered CG thing? It looks like it's physically there and reflecting on everything.
Yeah, I don't know. It kind of looks like. I think it is a render, because just the way, like you can sort of see like some shadows. Like you can see like his thumbs sort of look like a green. There's like a green screen.
Right,
under them.
That's the vibe I get.
Like his shadows, his shadows don't really like translate onto the controller. It seems like it's got like a different lighting source like on it. Right. Because like when he puts his thumbs over, there's like a glow on like the bottoms of the joy handles or the handles, and I don't think his thumbs really cause any shadows.
You're right.
So I think it is probably a 3D render, but the on the screen, like on the TV, that looks awesome. If the interface was like that, I'd be chuffed.
Oh yeah.
That's another thing I'm so excited to see is the interface, and to see, because I hear that they're really like revamping that, adding a lot of like meta features, which I'd love to have like a thing to say how long you've played or something like that as well. That'd be really cool. But yeah, it's a really, really cool video. But yeah, I think it is a render, but a very, very good one.
Oh yeah, for sure. I woke up this morning, I still had, crusty stuff in my eyes, and I'm like, what? Is this legit? And then kind of dug in 5 seconds more. It's like, okay, this is just a render or an idea.
Although I think I think the McLaren might be as well, because like he's got the lighting of the TV reflecting off of so I think maybe that's why he's got a McLaren in his house. I think it might all be a render and his hands are just like on top of it.
I think you're right. That's insane. Yeah, especially the way the camera moves back and forth. It's made to be somewhat like natural, but it's calibrated. Wow. I mean, kudos to this guy. That's pretty dope.
Yeah. Yeah, because it doesn't quite look, when you like, I mean, it's like keeps repeating, so I like can analyze it more and more. But like the more you look at it, the more it seems like too perfect. Like it, because I mean, people can. There's so many people who can render things that look this realistic. So it's not like it's not unrealistic that this is a render. But it's really well done. It's really cool. But yeah, I think the more I look at it, I think it's definitely just all a 3D render.
Yeah.
Because it makes the McLaren make a bit more sense.
Right. Oh, this guy's just balling so much that he has he just sleeps. That's his car bed.
Yeah. Yeah. He's like, maybe he's like doing tutorials, and these are just all like the Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles are like part of a tutorial we did.
Yeah.
He's just like shoved them all in one.
Yeah, it's pretty amazing, but yeah, this is just a concept, a render. But
yeah, it's really cool. I love seeing those concepts. In fact, there's like a YouTube channel that does, I don't know if you've seen, that does concepts for like video game menus.
I've seen stuff floating around. Like somebody did that, like a potential PS5 menu, like kind of opening up of that. Yeah.
Yeah, I see like the really popular ones, which is a bit strange, is like the WWE games. So whenever there's like a new WWE game coming out, someone will make a concept for the menu on it.
Gotcha.
And like for like FIFA, so like yearly games, I think people like to create these concepts for like, and it's so clever. I have no idea how they do it, because I mean they look like real professional. In fact, they normally look better than the actual game's UI
right.
looks. And it's like, why don't these guys work on the games?
Yep.
But yeah, I love like these sort of times where people are like thinking about what it could look like and then making their own sort of versions. It's really, really cool.
Yeah, you hope some of that seeps into the ideas of whoever's actually working on it. But yeah.
Well, it's like that first render of the PS5 console. I want that to be real. Like I don't think whatever it's going to look like is going to look as good as that.
You know what? That reminds me, when I was watching that UE5 demo, they end it with this cool looking V. And I'm like, oh shit, are we going to see some like PS5 stuff? Because they talked about this running on a PS5. And then it segues into just Unreal Engine 5. But like, I was hoping for a second, it's like, this could be dope. Yeah. But yeah.
Yeah, see, that like makes my like heart skip a beat sometimes. Is like when people mention the V, I just remember the dev kit, and I'm like, oh no, they wouldn't.
Man, I hope. And then they bring back the boomerang controller and just drop the mic, and that's all they got to do.
Have you seen photos of that controller recently?
Not recently, but I know it's terrible. It's like it's not ergonomic. There's no way to be comfortable holding it, but something about it is cool to me.
Like I remember seeing it like back then because I vividly remember before the PS3 was announced. I was really young, but I remember all the concepts then coming out, like the boomerang thing, and all of that. And at the time, I thought it's awesome. I thought this looks so futuristic. If you look at it now, it looks so shoddy and like so. Because it was an actual like concept from PlayStation, wasn't it? It was actually what they were.
Yeah, they showed it off. It was like at a E3 or some kind of place like that.
Yeah, and the same way if you look at a DualShock 3 now, if you just like look at like the plastic and how it's been made, it looks so shoddy. Then the boomerang controller like looks just so awful.
Right.
Like I just can't believe I thought it looked so futuristic at the time. It just looked.
It ends up looking like some kind of like Mad Catz third party like actual.
Yeah, it looks like it would just like. You can just tell that those buttons will just get stuck all the time.
Oh,
the analog sticks are like tiny. It's such an awful controller.
I need this controller. I imagine they made like 5 of them, and there's if there's a way to get a hold of one, like it'd be so expensive.
There must be actually. Yeah,
somebody has it.
I'm sure someone will make one as well.
Oh yeah, sure.
You must be able to buy them.
Maybe on Etsy somebody can make their own like version of this or something.
Yeah. I've just from googling that. I just saw. Is there any way to obtain the OG Boomerang on Reddit? And so someone said that no, it was only a concept and never sold. Oh, there must be one floating around somewhere. Though.
There's got to be.
That one in that picture has to be. I mean, it has to exist somewhere.
Yeah, I'm
hoping. It's probably at Mark Cerny's house.
Right. As he's talking to his cardboard cutouts in the corner, he's just holding.
Yeah. Yeah. It probably doesn't even function.
Yeah, I'm sure it's just like they just made the housing for it. Yeah, and the buttons.
Yeah.
Awesome, Callan.
Yeah,
well,
awful.
We'll end it there, man. Where can they find you online if you want to plug some of the stuff you've been working on too?
Oh yeah, so quite a lot actually. I've been keeping busy over this period. So Bear Monroe's my Twitter. That's where I sort of post if anything's going on. But I'm making a digital comic for mobile phones, which is under development now. You can follow updates from that on my Twitter or at Catan_games, which is my game studio Twitter page. So you can see updates for that. I try and upload sort of like daily, at least something, sort of some. It's weird. I don't want to upload too much to like sort of like spoil it all, but
right.
Yeah. So that's going really well. I'm hoping to have that released this year. And I've also been doing some videos just as like a little hobby thing. And I think I changed the name of my channel today to WallyWee, which is like my handle I use on most things.
Yeah, I forget to ask you, what is that a reference to?
It was like my nickname when I was a kid. Like I think it was like Callie, because my name's Callum. It was like Callie WallyWee or something like that. And just ever since like usernames.
That's some very British stuff always... there. If anything,
yeah. But ever since I've like chosen usernames, like I never get called it anymore, obviously. But I've always had it as like my handle online, so it's just easy to. But for some reason, my Twitter's Bear Monroe, which I don't really understand my thought process there. But
you made it, man. Yeah. I don't know what to tell you.
yeah, I don't remember. But yeah, my YouTube channel is WallyWee, and yeah, I'm trying to just have some fun with that whilst I've got the time. And
yep.
So keeping busy. Yeah, got lots on. But yeah, if you want to check it out, then be my guest.
Nice. All righty, we'll edit there, Calum. You can find us on Twitter as well, Plastic Heart Pod. That's it for us this week. We'll see you guys next week. Bye-bye.
See you later.
You're too late. I've already summoned Meteor.
Okay, let's go.